Okay, the next question is an either or, and it focuses around livestock. The one side of it is focusing around understanding livestock in a country you're familiar with in the context of dairy, milk production, and looking at sustainability. And then the other one is focusing around, oh fuck, I'm going to have to mark that one. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. Maybe. Well, it depends which one you do. It's actually around extensive livestock in more less favoured areas. Okay? And you've got a temperate example, and you've got a tropical example within there as well. So again, you can pick within there whether you want to talk temperate or tropical livestock. Oh bollocks, I have got to mark that one. Question 6 is imagine you're about to give a presentation to a group of dairy farmers in New Zealand, and you are challenged to talk about the benefits of legumes in their pastures. What things would you build into your talk? Okay, so that's based around my case study I did on New Zealand around UMEs and potential of legumes and the limitations and all the rest of it. If you were going to answer or make a discussion about integrating fish and rice, what sort of things would you build into that? What are the issues around rice on its own, fish on its own, rice, fish together, in terms of production, in terms of nutrition? What sort of things would you build into that? Is it something you're familiar with enough or not? Yeah? What's something in there? I would always, in answering all of these questions, I would always try and make sure you've built in a sustainability argument to it, economic, social, environmental. And I would always be looking at the potential benefits of what you're talking about, but also the limitations, and how to enhance the benefits and how to mitigate the disadvantages. That's the same for any question in any subject. That ought to be your common model. Talk the sustainability issue, talk the pros and the cons, and talk about how you enhance the pros and how you mitigate the cons. That should be for any question in any discipline. And then the final question, all I'm going to just say is it's a question focusing around crop protection. Now, does that seem a reasonable range of questions based on the sorts of things that were covered in the module there or not? Yeah? Do you feel fairly comfortable with that?
Fine, yeah.
How many of you did agriculture intensification? Yeah? Alright, let's just do that so we've covered both of those topics at the moment. Bearing in mind we've already covered small scale farming when we did the lecture on Monday. Paul, do you do small scale farming? You do? So I need to pick a review on some of the issues that we've covered there. I mean, I'll go through it again in a minute. This again is the other 3-hour paper you do. 3 questions. There's you answer 3 questions out of 8, but it's effectively 10 questions here because there's 2 either ors. Okay, so you've got 10 to choose from, 10 themes. The first question is really focusing around the relationships in developing agriculture, where you have got the dynamic tension between labour availability and labour costs versus technological changes. Yeah? Is that enough to give you a focus? It's those relationships. Second question. If you were going to talk about agriculture wherever you are in the world, from an intensification point of view, what sort of things would you bring in if you were being asked to consider some of the potential issues around, say, climate change? So what sort of issues do you think would be into there, particularly focusing around the over and under availability of water? So there's a focus around that one. So basically the relationship between water and agriculture is something that you need to focus on with either specific examples but also with a more maybe international perspective over it. And again, that's one where you can, if you say getting it wrong, then you start to get into food insecurity, you get into less resilient agricultural systems, you can explore those areas, you can talk about the technologies that can be used at the farm level, regionally, strategically. You might, in a question like that, be able to bring in some of the arguments like the case studies if you did it on Arab water and importing food and therefore importing water and these sorts of things are areas which perhaps you might want to build into a sort of a question like that. The third focus area is really looking at the potential and the issues around improving vegetable production in specifically named regions of the world. Okay? So again, it's looking at the sort of innovations that are going on in terms of sustainable intensification of fresh produce developments around the world or in specific countries. I mean, I'm not certain what you've covered within there. What have you covered in those? You looked at Vietnam? So you've done an Asian example. And have you looked at any other parts of the world in terms of it?
In Cambodia.
Yeah? Cambodia? Okay. Okay, question 4 is really, it's a focus around Paul's favourite area, plantation crops and sustainability. I think he's probably looking at, he's looking at your plantation tree crops specifically and looking at sustainability issues within those. In fact, that could go back to your earlier one. You could almost answer the same question when you're looking at integrated systems. I don't know if he shared with you, there's a very good paper that was written a number of years ago on putting feedlot beef under oil palm, for example, because the two enterprises can co-depend on each other in many ways. The oil palm's creating shade for the beef in a tropical, subtropical condition, and the beef animals are keeping the vegetation down, weeding and conferring fertility, and you can also generate from the oil palm waste, you can generate animal feed from it. So you've got a win-win situation there where you could be looking at an integrated system, and that's an example of making maybe a monoculture into a more sustainable type system, and you're diversifying your income, you're spreading your risk, and these are just examples from, and that was a case study I actually used on a consultancy report a number of years ago. Yeah, yeah. Question 5 is an either or. And both of them focus around livestock developments in terms of maybe intensification of ruminants or intensive farming methods in relation to sort of environmental issues, food safety and these issues, which could include things like more intensive livestock units, the landless systems, intensive pigs, poultry, feedlot cattle, all these sorts of areas, the sorts of areas that I would imagine you could build into an issue around intensive methods and some of the issues around them. There's a question in there around looking at the applied benefits of managing your soil and your soil health. There's a focus in that area. Another question which really allows you to refocus around pesticide use and strategies for perhaps reducing that but still maintaining production efficiency. And then there's a final question really about livestock supply chains from the production to the consumer and embracing all sort of aspects of that supply chain. Those are the sort of focus areas that Paul has put together for his two papers. Now, I hope that is sufficient to at least give you a focus to know what areas that you can look towards to try and pull information together. And as I've said in previous ones, perhaps it allows you to identify 3 or 4 topics that you want to focus on without having to try and learn everything. Yes, yeah, it's a pain in the arse. All of a sudden you think, I've got all my marking done, and he says, Richard, I've got 6 questions here, can you do it by 11 o'clock? But Paul, it's 10:59. Yeah, they do get passed round.
So the only ones were marked on the
Yeah. Now, if you wanted to help Paul speed up in his marking, it'd be quite handy to answer each question in a separate booklet. So have 3 booklets, and then we could just pass the booklets around to people. So that might be an idea for Paul's papers, to help him in terms of his marking management, and to help me not get a question in the 11th hour when I'm desperately trying to mark my 10-metre high pile of words.
Is that really the one?
Doesn't do any harm to do that, and most of you will be expanding answers that will take up most of an answer book. Some of you will write some answers that take up more than an answer book because you've got big writing or big pictures or God knows what else. How many people here are doing climate change? Who's doing it? It's a scene paper. So if I give it to Yin and then you can pass it round, because you should be. I don't know when it's due. What day you got climate change? Towards the end, isn't it?
Yeah, towards the end.
14. Yeah.
14.
14.
Okay, which means that you should officially have the paper by Thursday.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, you can have it now.
Ah.
So read it, pass it round. You should, by the time you come back, have a paper there. Oh, thank you. Well, I'll try and keep that on there.